Hey YouTube, if you find this video helpful, please click like and subscribe. And remember, you can fix it. So maybe you own a car with an automatic transmission or a CVT and you've had some problems and people have told you you need to get a new transmission. But before you run off and do that, it's definitely worth trying something where you're going to spend maybe $100, $150 if you do the work yourself to try it first. So this Nissan Rogue right here, we had trouble with, we were on the highway, transmission started to slip, seemed to slip worse, car revved higher and higher, and in the end it went into limp mode and we barely made it home. So I hooked up the computer scanner to it to read the codes, got a code P0776, and that's supposed to be a stuck transmission solenoid B. And the more I researched and talked to people, it appeared that the transmission was done for. By the way, there's some great videos out there on changing the transmission on these cars. I'm going to put the links to those. Very helpful. Some of them are older than 2020, but really, in terms of dropping the subframe suspension to get to the transmission, it's pretty much the same. So that can be useful as well. So my suggestion is to first have some type of a scanner. There's some great ones that you can hook to your computer, or you can buy other ones in places, like an auto parts store, and hook up the scanner, read the codes, see if you get a code like the P0776 or some other transmission code. If you do, make sure you have some type of a scanner that you can clear those codes. Clear the codes, then maybe put the car in your driveway, just put it in drive, put it in reverse, see if it's going into gear okay. Maybe drive it just slightly, just enough to see if the car wants to start off in drive normally and not in limp mode. So if you're familiar with limp mode, when the car's in limp mode, you go maybe 0 to 30 in 60 seconds or something crazy. It's very hard to get the car moving. But if you've cleared those codes and the car will move a little bit back and forth, not in limp mode, and there's no sounds coming from the transmission, that's a good sign. So that happens. Next, I would get the right type of transmission fluid for your car, and see if it has, this car has in fact 2 transmission filters in it, so find out if it has 1 or 2. A lot of Nissans have actually 2 filters, an external canister filter as well as the internal metal filter. Drain the fluid. See if the fluid is free of medical particles. You could run a magnet through it and find out. Also keep track of how much fluid you took out of the car, because you want to put the same amount of fluid back in. Then after you drop the fluid, drop the transmission pan. Take a look. Like this Nissan has 3 magnets in the bottom of it. Again, if parts of the transmission belt have come off, or other gears or bearings, those materials are going to collect on that pan. If you see no metal fragments or practically nothing, that's also a good sign. So at that point, you can change the internal filter and the external filter if you have one. That might be a good place to just do that much, put the pan back in, put fluid back in. So you can flush the fluid, which means running fluid through it several times, but if you're just putting enough fluid in to do it once, it's probably going to tell you if you have a problem. You might just do all of this, and lo and behold, your transmission works great, if you're lucky. I went a little bit further. I dropped the internal valve diaphragm to the transmission, and I took the solenoids apart and cleaned those too, in case they were actually dirty and stuck, and I checked them for resistance and also checked them electronically to see if they're working as well. And I'll show you a little bit more about that later in the video. But I definitely recommend that you try to do this first before you committing yourself to a new transmission. So nowadays, many car manufacturers no longer put a dipstick in your transmission, so you can't check your fluid. It's just a plug. But you can go online and get yourself a dipstick if you want to, and not for too much money. All right, you're going to want to get yourself up on jack stands. And then this trim, it's got all these plastic clips. You want to remove this centerpiece first. so that you can access all of the oil pan for the transmission. So these pull out with you put a screwdriver in here, pop it part way out, the center part, and then the whole clip will come out. Just like that, take the whole clip out. All right, this is with the shield removed. And now you're gonna use 19mm socket and remove the drain plug, drain the fluid. I suggest keeping track of how much fluid you drain out, so you put the same amount back in. And hopefully your pan looks something like this. These are 3 magnets to catch metal particles, and I'm really not seeing any metal particles or fragments in here. So on the Nissan Rogue here, this is your valve body. There's a plug here that can be unhooked. So only some of these bolts need to come out. There are ones that have a number 7 on them. These are the 2 exceptions, and that's why you have this circle with the line through it. These 2 do not have to be removed, but the other ones that have a number 7 do have to be removed to drop the valve body. You may not want to do this. You might want to just change the filters and fluid first. This is the metal filter that needs to be changed. There's 2 bolts that have to come out. This up here is the canister filter on the Nissan Rogue. There's 4 bolts that hold that in. So again, if you have not found any metal fragments in transmission oil or in the transmission pan, I suggest you just change the filters, put the pan and everything back together, drive the vehicle, see if it's okay. Hopefully so. If not, and you're still getting that code for a solenoid, then you can go ahead and take out those number 7 bolts and remove the transmission valve body. Okay, so this is the bottom of the transmission with the valve body removed. I was pleasantly surprised to see the belt here looks fine. This is the valve body out of the transmission. You can unhook all of these to pull the wires out. And for each of these solenoids, it's just a pin, and then you can pull the solenoid right out. Okay, you take it out all the way. Cleaned each one of these with an electronic cleaner. You can test at least to make sure electronically they're good. There's 2 pins in there, you might be able to see. And you want to be careful not to touch 2 together, but you can, hook up wires from your car battery, and each of these solenoids is going to move back and forth, and you're going to hear it if it's working okay. And you can also check the resistance on each of these. And I never could find the schematic for a 2020 Rogue, but I was in around 7 ohms, and that should be in the ballpark. So if you do find a problem with one of the solenoids, you might be able to purchase new solenoids online. There are also people selling valve bodies with the solenoids that have been rebuilt for a reasonable price online. Some cases, like a car is new as a 2020 Nissan Rogue, you've also got to do some reprogramming there of the computer if you switch that valve body. So make sure you have somebody who can do that for you, or you have the equipment. So this was my first video. Please click like and subscribe if you found it helpful. Hope you did, and I'll make some more. And remember, you can fix it.